In the current millennium, the Imperium of Man has fought countless wars against the technologically advanced Tau Empire. Their incredible firepower and ability to covertly entrench themselves in a planet and sector makes them one of the deadliest Xenos in the galaxy. Even the Adeptus Astartes warriors understand the danger of such an intelligent foe. But it wasn't always like this. When the Imperium first encountered the Tau, they seemed like an unremarkable Xenos that would be a mere footnote in the Imperium of Man's conquest of the galaxy. This was proven wrong during the first major military campaign known as the Damocles Gulf Crusade. And with that, I want to welcome you guys back to another 40 Facts about the 40K universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be going over one of the first major battles of the Tau versus the Imperium. If you guys are new to the channel, we post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day, so subscribe to the channel if you want to learn more about the 40K universe. And if you guys have any suggestions or questions about the 40K universe, let me know what they are in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them there or create a video for you guys. And thank our patrons on Patreon. It is because of them that we can do these videos. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's just $1 a month. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Damocles Gulf Crusade. The Damocles Gulf Crusade began just like any other crusade meant to destroy and pacify a turbulent region of space. In this case, it was the eastern fringe of the galaxy, and the troubled region was the Dal'yth sector. This string of imperial subsectors stretching between the Damocles Gulf and the Purdus Rift anomaly had suffered extensive disruption due to Eldar pirate raids and warp storm activity. As the Imperium strove to restore its grip in the region, it was discovered that the alien race called the Tau were allying themselves with the dissident imperial factions. The perils of these local alliances was evidenced in the number of alien goods and artifacts appearing in the nearby system. Inquisitorial investigation revealed evidence of Tau activity in the adjoining sectors. The Inquisition's conclusion was that the Tau represented a major threat, and the Cardinal, Asau Gurney of Brimlock, officially called for a crusade to be dispatched to purge these aliens. The crusade was based around a dozen capital ships, 5 provisional companies of Space Marines made up of a contingent from a dozen chapters, 19 regiments of Imperial Guard, 7 of them from Brimlock. The first move was towards the Timbra subsector, where human colonists had coexisted with the alien. The Crusade first reasserted Imperial rule in the Garus and Kleist colonies. Individuals implicated in dealing with the Tau were seized and punished at the special rally held before the furious Crusaders. The Imperial colony secured, the Crusade moved on and engaged the Tau for the very first time in the uninhabited Haida system. 7 Tau warships of approximately cruiser displacements were detected on the edge of the system. The Crusade fleet attacked immediately, but found that the Tau ships were capable of launching powerful torpedo salvos at long range, breaking up the Imperial formation quickly. Bomber waves were launched, but these were countered by Tau escorts launched from the capital ship. A Space Marine strike cruiser, supported by a squadron of sword-class frigates, made the decisive attack. Getting inside the Tau formation, they inflicted heavy damage and discovered that the Tau ships lacked broadside firepower. The Tau were forced to launch more escorts as a screen while they disengaged. One Tau ship was unable to withdraw and exploded while the crew was in the process of abandoning their craft. The Tau ships that were able to escaped to the Sy'kell system. It contained an apparently fertile agri-world with a population estimated at 7 million. It was defended by an orbital station, a number of system ships, and the remnants of the Tau fleet encountered at Haida. The Crusader Council of War appointed Captain Ruman of the Iron Hands to take overall command of the planetary assault that was inevitable. The Imperial fleet closed quickly, pounding the orbital station as they approached. Its armaments were not as extensive as they had feared, and the Iron Hands were able to board it. The Tau fleet disengaged almost immediately and was not seriously damaged. It was gathered that they were evacuating key personnel from the planet rather than defending it. The Iron Hands quickly overwhelmed the orbital station's defenders and dutifully cleansed it with flame. It was to serve as an Imperial headquarters for the ground campaign. Space Marines from the sites of the Emperor established a landing zone, and the 17th Brimlock Dragoons were landed to provide heavy support. The Tau response was swift and consisted of an extremely well-equipped mechanized infantry formation with armored support. The Tau grav tank, designated as the Hammerhead, appeared to be a close match to the Leman Russ, and the Tau proved more adept at supporting their armor with infantry. The Dragoons suffered heavy losses when enemy infantry wearing heavy jump packs ambushed them in the rolling grounds. Only swift intervention from the 4th Stormtrooper Company of the Sights of the Emperor averted a massacre. While the Crusade pushed ever nearer to the planet's population hub, the Tau evacuated the most qualified workers and dismantled any advanced technology. When the 9th Brimlock Fusiliers were landed, the Tau resistance crumbled, and all objectives were quickly attained. The planet was then completely cleansed. With this chain of victories, arrangements were made to cross the Damocles Gulf to the Imperial-designated subsector of Kendril. However, expeditionary forces were first sent to deal with the Tau presence in the Viscel system. Early reconnaissance had revealed the 6th planet to be an ice-covered water world, on which the Tau had established a fishery colony. As no great strategic benefit was evident to controlling the planet, it was subjugated to orbital bombardment, melting the ice around the main colony and destroying them completely. After a 5-month journey across the Gulf, the Crusade arrived in the Dal'yth system within the Kendril subsector. The outermost planet, Prayen, was protected by an orbital station, and it was clearly intended to provide the first line of defense in the system. The fleet approach was very casual, assuming that the station would be no more dangerous than any of the other ones encountered. It proved to be much more formidable, mounting an array of heavy railguns whose first volley crippled the honor of Dal'yth. And then the fleet had to break formation just as 11 Tau ships emerged from behind Prayen. The fleet escorts attacked the orbital station, while the main battle fleet swung towards the Tau ship. The Tau fleet decided to concentrate its torpedo salvos against a Dauntless-class light cruiser, which resisted superbly until a lucky shot caused massive bulkhead collapse, which in turn triggered a plasma drive overload, destroying the ship with all hands. Arriving piecemeal, the Imperial ships gradually won the advantage, although on this occasion the Tau fought on, despite taking horrendous punishment. The escort suffered heavy losses fighting the Tau orbital station, and as soon as they were closely engaged, the last piece of the Tau trap was put in place. Appearing from nowhere, after suddenly powering up, a Kroot warp sphere steered directly into the Imperial transport. The transport flotilla had no choice but to scatter. Fortunately, the huge Kroot hulk was slow, and its guns were short range, but its sheer size seemed certain to eradicate the Crusade. But salvation came in the form of the Admiral's flagship, the Blade of Woe, a Retribution-class battleship. Leaving the rest of the fleet to finish off the Tau warship, the Admiral had turned, planning to help the escorts when the warp sphere arrived. Accelerating to maximum power, the great ship overtook the lumbering warp sphere and turned across its path. From the first exchange, it was clear that the Blade of Woe carried the greater weight of fire, and its salvos systematically ripped the warp sphere apart. And with that, the crusading fleet had won a truly difficult victory. Although the warp sphere, the Tau fleet, and the orbital station were destroyed, it was at the cost of 4 capital ships and 14 escorts. The Tau ambush had come very close to succeeding, and brought a new respect for the Tau. Although some amongst the Crusade's command advocated turning back, the lure of a major Tau world lying ahead was too tempting. Dal'yth Prime was protected by 3 orbital stations, and after recent experience, these were approached very cautiously. None proved to be heavily gunned, and were destroyed at leisure. Expecting a new Tau fleet at any time, the ground assault quickly commenced. The eastern seaboard of the largest continent was selected as a target. Protected to the north by mountains, and to the east by the sea, a short advance southwest put the invasion force before the first of a number of cities alongside the coast. The drop was contested by a large number of Tau flyers, but was eventually successful. The full force of the Crusade was finally deployed, and the invasion began. The local road network was excellent, and the advance neared the Tau city of Gibrin before a defensive line was formed. With Titans and armored formations as a spearhead, the Crusade plowed relentlessly towards the city. As they advanced, though, enemy missiles fired from beyond hills and woods started to inflict heavy losses. Units had to be dispatched to drive back the Tau spotters, but these were in turn engaged by Tau jump troops equipped with cloaking fields. Gradually, the coherency of the attacking wedge was broken up, until by the time it reached the outskirts of Gilbrin, there were 3 spearheads pushing forward ahead of the main force. One of these was made up of the Titans from the Legio Thanatharis. This was countered by Tau Manta missile destroyers, the same craft that had been launched in the earlier space battles from the Tau warships. The second spearhead was predominantly veteran light infantry of the Rakashian rifles, whose intelligent use of cover had thus far kept them out of harm's way. They were countered by the emergence of a host of Kroot warriors on the rooftops and within the buildings of Gilbrin. The third was a detachment of crusading space marines, consisting of brethren from the Iron Hands, the Ultramarines, and the Sights of the Emperor. These the Tau countered with their own finest, their heavy jump troops. The timely Tau counterattack stalled the momentum of the Imperial advance, and the front stabilized on the lines of the Broad River some 20 miles north of Gelbrinn. Their advance halted. The Imperial forces, which were commanded by General Gendel Gage, had to dig in to avoid the worst of the Tau firepower. The Tau possessed superior night fighting capabilities, which they exploited, moving up to extreme range and opening fire, only to withdraw at dawn. Space Marine combat patrols helped, but losses continued to mount. This was compounded by the constant worry that a new Tau fleet would arrive. The Crusade fleet was badly damaged and could barely protect its transports, let alone provide cover for the entire army. As the siege ground on, more Tau arrived on the front each day. General Gage concluded that the Crusade had stumbled onto a major Tau world and their resources were too insufficient to complete the task. Plentiful reinforcements had been promised at the outset, but none had arrived. And Inquisitor Grant was all for the evacuation, followed by Exterminatus, as the Tau were clearly too dangerous to be allowed to exist. However, many within the Imperial army had found that the Tau were honorable adversaries, and there was marked opposition for such an extreme sanction within the High Command. While the Crusader Council of War was paralyzed by internal debate, General Gage acted. He formed the Titans up with the Brimlock regiments and attempted to force the river line down the right flank, trapping the Tau against the sea. As preparation, his artillery pounded other sectors, and the Imperial Navy fighters began an offensive against Tau airfields. This was costly, but kept the Tau flyers from the front. The Imperial strike force took their primary objective in the first hour, a town containing a bridge, and achieved complete surprise. As the assault continued, it was countered by ultra-mobile Tau units deployed from the ubiquitous Manta missile destroyers. For the rest of the day, a running battle was fought through the Dal'yth suburbs, which ended with the Imperium a mere 5 miles away from trapping tens of thousands of Tau. Overnight, the Tau troops disengaged and fell back to another defensive line beyond Gelbrinn. By the morning, the Tau were gone, and while the city itself was infested by lurking Kroot, the starport on the outskirts was quickly secured. Controlling the starport, combined with the distance from which the Tau had retreated, made an excellent opportunity for evacuation, and General Gage took it. Resistance from the Inquisition and the Adeptus Astartes was overruled by the arrival of an express order from Inquisitor Cryptman, who wanted them to return to Brimlock with all available forces. The Tau sensibly realized that getting in the way would serve no purpose, and parleys held under flags of truce with the Tau were honored by both sides. The first seeds of cooperation were sown, though these would take time to bloom in the aftermath of such a brutal conflict. And those were 40 facts on the Damocles Gulf Crusade. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow. This is Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.